How you think Putin sees this? Because I heard you speaking about this morning and about the fact that Putin, they're like, here's what we want. A smaller Ukraine military. You'll only be allowed to have a military of such a size, and it's going to be smaller than it currently is. And we want you to have new elections. This is Putin's wish for Ukraine. Definitely would like to install his own puppet in Ukraine, as he once had a couple of presidencies ago. How do you think Putin views what played out in the Oval Office?
Yeah, well, I think, number one, he's happy to see the friction and the divide between the two presidents play out in a public view. And he thinks he'd likely, if negotiations are going to go forward, he thinks he likely can take advantage of it. But I think there's a second message there, and that's dealing with President Trump. He doesn't put up with any nonsense whatsoever, and he's not going to stand for how he was being treated in the Oval Office. And I think it's less about him, is what the office represents in terms of the American people, is where he's coming from. So Putin may likely misread this a little bit. Yeah. But you're absolutely right, Martha. I mean, we've had the second meeting that took place yesterday, and what did Putin put on the table in terms of negotiations? He wants more territory. Right. The 4 provinces that he's concerned about, he only occupies some of it, but he wants all of it. That's what he put on the table. And he has those other things that you just talked about as conditions as well. Those are hardline conditions. I think the jury is still out in terms of whether Putin is truly serious about making a deal, with the implication that if you're going to have an agreement, you're going to have to make some compromise.
Yeah, doesn't sound like they're in that mood quite yet.
But one of the and President Trump and his team, they actually want Putin to give up territory. I mean, they're not saying that, but that's what will go on in the negotiations. So yes, hopefully this gets recovered. Zelensky's got to take the action to do that. And I think if he apologizes to the president and the American people, and we can get on with signing this deal.
Yeah. All right.
Because it is strategic and it is in Ukraine's interest, obviously, as well as the United States. And listen, another thing that's here, we have got to appreciate once and for all, the president really wants to stop the killing. The human aspect of this thing is very important to him.
Yeah.
And he always keeps coming back to it.
Does.
He understands the strategic and global implications, to be sure, but he also wants to stop the human suffering that is taking place.
And he talked about a lot on the campaign trail, that this would be a priority. He wanted to end this war, and he is working on that. And that is what we're watching, as rocky as it can be. Sometimes that's the path to solutions. So we hope that that's what we see here.